burned his jersey in the streets of North London. Number 10. The captain's armband. 8 years of memories reduced to ash and smoke. In the summer of 2012, Robin van Persie didn't just leave Arsenal. He walked across the greatest divide in English football and signed for Manchester United. The Emirates fell silent. The betrayal was complete. This is the story of a love affair that ended in heartbreak, of loyalty sacrificed on the altar of ambition, of the captain who chose trophies over devotion. This is the story of how Robin van Persie became the most hated man in Arsenal's history. He arrived broken. Not physically, though that would come later, but reputationally. Robin van Persie landed at Arsenal in 2004 with the weight of a bad boy label hanging around his neck like an anchor. Feyenoord had grown tired of his temperament, his recklessness, his inability to channel raw talent into consistent brilliance. He was explosive on the pitch and combustible off it. A young Dutch forward with sublime technical ability wrapped in immaturity. Arsenal paid £2.75 million for potential, not certainty. Most clubs had already walked away. Arsene Wenger saw something others didn't. Where scouts saw volatility, Wenger saw malleability. Where coaches saw a troublemaker, Wenger saw a student waiting for the right teacher. The Frenchman had built his legacy on reclamation projects, turning diamonds in the rough into jewels that sparkled under the lights of the Premier League. Van Persie became his most challenging masterpiece. Wenger didn't just coach him, he parentied him, mentored him, believed in him when everyone else had given up. Through the injuries, through the red cards, through the frustration, Wenger never wavered. The injuries were relentless. Ankle problems, groin issues, knee complications. Van Persie spent more time in the treatment room than on the training pitch during his first 4 seasons. Critics called him made of glass, questioned whether Arsenal had wasted their money on damaged goods. But Wenger remained patient, almost stubbornly so. He understood that greatness couldn't be rushed, that talent this pure needed time to mature, to strengthen, to finally bloom. Every setback was met with encouragement. Every recovery was celebrated as progress. Wenger was building more than a player, he was building a relationship. Slowly, painfully, Van Persie evolved. The hot-headed youngster transformed into a clinical finisher. The injury-prone prospect became a reliable starter. By 2011, he wore the captain's armband, a symbol of how far he'd travelled from that troubled kid who arrived from Rotterdam. He'd become Arsenal's talisman, the player they built attacks around, the leader who carried Wenger's philosophy onto the pitch. His left foot produced moments of magic that took breath away, volleys that defied physics, finishes that demonstrated perfect technique, goals that reminded everyone why Wenger had believed so deeply. The transformation was complete. Van Persie had become everything Wenger envisioned: a world-class striker, a captain, an Arsenal man. Or so everyone thought. Beneath the surface, beneath the armband and the goals and the standing ovations, something was shifting. Van Persie had conquered his demons and reached the summit of his abilities. Now he stood there, looking around, and realized the club that had nurtured him wasn't climbing with him. The hunger for trophies was growing. The patience was running out. The boy had become a man, and the man wanted glory that Arsenal could no longer promise. The 2011 to 2012 season should have been a coronation. Instead, it became a farewell tour disguised as heroism. Robin van Persie carried Arsenal on his back like Atlas bearing the weight of the world, scoring 30 league goals in a team that barely functioned as a collective. Every week brought another moment of brilliance: volleys against Everton, hat-tricks against Chelsea, last-minute winners salvaged from the jaws of defeat. He was magnificent, unstoppable, operating at a level that few strikers in Premier League history had reached. But magnificence in isolation is just tragedy wearing a different mask. Arsenal were falling apart around him. The team that once challenged for titles had become a selling club, a development academy for Europe's elite. Cesc Fabregas had gone to Barcelona. Samir Nasri had joined Manchester City. Every summer brought fresh departures. talented players abandoning ship for clubs with genuine ambition. The Emirates, once a symbol of Arsenal's bright future, had become a mausoleum of broken promises. Fans sang "We've got Ozil" to convince themselves everything was fine, but the cracks were visible to anyone willing to look. Van Persie watched his teammates leave for glory and felt the pull himself. At 28, he'd entered his prime years, the window where world-class strikers win their trophies, build their legacies, cement their places in history. Time was running out, and Arsenal showed no signs of matching his ambition. The club was content with fourth place, with Champions League qualification, with the profitable mediocrity that kept the board satisfied. They talked about competing but never committed the resources necessary to actually challenge Manchester United, Manchester City, or Chelsea. The realization was bitter. Arsene Wenger had saved him, developed him, turned him into one of Europe's deadliest strikers. Van Persie owed the Frenchman everything: his career, his maturity, his transformation from troubled youngster to Arsenal captain. But gratitude couldn't fill the trophy cabinet that remained painfully empty. 8 years at the club had yielded a single FA Cup, one before he'd even become a regular starter. The prime years were ticking away, and Van Persie could feel the weight of unfulfilled potential pressing down on him. By the end of that season, the decision was forming. He'd carried Arsenal as far as he could, scored goals that kept them relevant, worn the armband with pride while watching superior teams lift the silverware he craved. Love and loyalty only stretch so far when you're watching your career's golden years slip through your fingers. The boy who arrived from Feyenoord owed Wenger everything. But the man who'd become world-class needed more than sentiment. He needed trophies. And Arsenal could no longer provide them. July 4th, 2012. Independence Day in America. The day Robin Van Persie declared his independence from Arsenal. The open letter appeared on his website, cold and clinical, every word a dagger aimed at the heart of the club that made him. He wouldn't be signing a new contract. After careful consideration, he decided his ambitions no longer aligned with Arsenal's direction. The language was diplomatic, but the message was brutal. Arsenal weren't good enough anymore, and he was leaving to win trophies they couldn't provide. The Arsenal hierarchy were blindsided. Ivan Gazidis, the chief executive, had spent weeks negotiating, believing they could convince their captain to stay. The meeting that followed the letter was glacial. Van Persie sat across from Gazidis and made his position clear. He wanted to leave, and he wanted to join a club capable of winning the Premier League. There was no room for negotiation, no emotional appeal that would change his mind. The captain who'd worn the armband with apparent pride was already gone, mentally preparing for his next chapter while Arsenal scrambled to understand how they'd lost him. What made it unforgivable wasn't the departure itself. Players leave. Contracts expire. Careers move forward. What destroyed the relationship was the destination. Manchester United. Arsenal's greatest rivals, the club they'd battled for supremacy throughout the Wenger era, the team that represented everything Arsenal fans despised. Sir Alex Ferguson wanted Van Persie, and Van Persie wanted the guarantee of trophies. The business logic was sound. The emotional betrayal was catastrophic. Arsenal tried to sell him abroad. Paris Saint-Germain made offers. Juventus expressed interest. But Van Persie had made his choice. He would join United for £24 million, a bargain for a striker who just scored 30 league goals. Arsenal had no leverage. His contract was expiring, and keeping an unwilling player for one final season served no purpose. They accepted the inevitable, announced the transfer, and braced for the backlash that would define Van Persie's legacy forever. The reaction was volcanic. Arsenal fans felt betrayed in a way that transcended normal transfer disappointment. This wasn't just losing a star player, it was watching your captain, the man you'd supported through years of injuries and development, choose your worst enemy. They burned his jerseys. They cursed his name. They promised to never forgive him. Van Persie had made his choice. He chose winning over loyalty, ambition over gratitude, Manchester United over Arsene Wenger. In North London, he would forever be remembered not as a legend, but as Judas. vindication was immediate and cruel. Robin van Persie didn't just succeed at Manchester United, he conquered. His debut season at Old Trafford was the stuff of dreams for him and nightmares for Arsenal fans. 26 league goals. Countless match-winning performances. The chemistry with Wayne Rooney, the understanding with Ryan Giggs, the lethal finishing that Sir Alex Ferguson had craved. Van Persie proved he hadn't been chasing false promises. He'd been chasing this, being the decisive player for a club that actually wins. April 22, 2013. Aston Villa away. The moment that crystallized the entire saga into one perfect, painful image. Van Persie received the ball near the edge of the box, his back to goal, a defender tied on him. In one fluid motion, he chested it down, pivoted, and unleashed a volley that screamed into the top corner. The technique was sublime. The significance was devastating. That goal sealed Manchester United's 20th league title, the trophy that confirmed them as England's most successful club. Van Persie wheeled away in celebration while Arsenal fans watched from a distance, their worst nightmare playing out in real time. The irony was exquisite in its cruelty. Van Persie had spent 8 years at Arsenal, carrying them through mediocrity, wearing their captain's armband, giving them everything he had. 0 Premier League titles. At Manchester United, in his first season, wearing the number 20 shirt, he delivered their 20th championship. The symmetry was too perfect, too painful. Arsenal finished 4th again, 60 points adrift of United, watching their former hero lift the trophy they hadn't won since 2004. Sir Alex Ferguson praised him endlessly. "The best signing I ever made," Ferguson declared. At the title celebration, Van Persie held the Premier League trophy with tears in his eyes, vindicated in his decision, proven right in his assessment that Arsenal couldn't provide what he needed. Every interview, every celebration, every acknowledgement of his crucial role drove the knife deeper into Arsenal hearts. He hadn't just won, he'd won immediately, emphatically, with the rival that Arsenal fans hated most. The football world watched a tragedy unfold in real time. Arsenal had developed him, saved his career, turned him into a world-class striker. And in return, he'd left them for their rivals and won the title that had eluded him in red and white. Was he vindicated? Absolutely. Was he forgiven? Never. Van Persie got exactly what he wanted. The Premier League trophy, the validation of his decision, the proof that he'd been right to leave. But the cost was his legacy, his relationship with an entire fan base, his place in a history that would remember him not with love, but with bitterness that would last generations. The fairy tale didn't last. Sir Alex Ferguson retired weeks after that title triumph, and Manchester United entered a spiral that nobody predicted. David Moyes arrived and the magic evaporated. Van Persie's second season was marred by injuries, the old demons returning as if his body remembered that it was made of glass. The goals dried up. The team collapsed. Manchester United went from champions to 7th place in one catastrophic season. The player who'd left Arsenal for guaranteed trophies found himself in a club just as dysfunctional, just as lost. By 2015, Van Persie was finished at Old Trafford. Louis van Gaal didn't rate him. The injuries had robbed him of the explosive pace that made him deadly. At 31, he was no longer the player who terrorized Premier League defenses. Fenerbahce offered an escape route to Turkey, a chance to extend his career in a less demanding league. He left Manchester United with one Premier League title, one goal that would haunt Arsenal forever, and a career that peaked in that single, glorious, controversial season. The return to Feyenoord came in 2018, a homecoming that should have been triumphant but felt instead like an admission that the English chapter had ended in complicated fashion. He was a club legend in Rotterdam, the local boy who'd conquered Europe and returned to finish where he started. But in England, there was no home waiting for him. Arsenal fans would never forgive him. Manchester United fans appreciated his title contribution but didn't love him the way they loved their true icons. He was a mercenary who'd made a calculated choice, and mercenaries don't get statues. The legacy is fractured, impossible to reconcile. At Arsenal, he's Judas, the captain who abandoned them for their greatest rival. The goals he scored, the moments of brilliance, the years of development under Wenger, all erased by one unforgivable transfer. At Manchester United, He's remembered fondly but not reverently, a crucial piece in one title but not a legend in the way Cantona or Ronaldo or Rooney are legends. He exists in a strange purgatory, a world-class striker who never found a true spiritual home in English football. History will judge him with complexity. Was he wrong to leave Arsenal? No. The club lacked ambition, couldn't compete financially, and wasted his prime years finishing fourth. Was he wrong to join Manchester United? Morally, emotionally, in the eyes of Arsenal fans, absolutely. There's a line in football, an understanding that certain transfers cross into unforgivable territory. Van Persie didn't just cross it, he obliterated it. He got his trophy, proved his point, and lost his legacy in the process. 20 years from now, Arsenal fans will tell their children about the captain who stabbed them in the back. And they'll never, ever forgive him. That's the price of ambition. That's the cost of choosing winning over loyalty. Robin van Persie got his trophy, but he lost something far more precious, a place to call home.